Please come journey with me inside the world where technology meets human mind, where body functions are wirelessly controlled and souls are overridden and mapped on three-dimensional workstations, all done from anywhere in the world to anyone in and of this world, where everyone has their own signature IP address, where one's soul can and is being hacked and overridden. Brain mapping is not new. The father of propaganda, Edward Bernays from the 1920s, was said to invent the business of mass mind control. The wealthy, elite, and powerful have understood for a very long time now how the brain functions, which led to behavior modification capabilities, which led to DARPA and now beyond. They have known how to make us behave and act through propaganda techniques and technologies for a very long time. In short, they have trained our minds since public schooling began, and now they have the technology to override our brains. The huge difference between nearly 100 years ago when Tesla rediscovered wireless communications and today's modern wireless techno capabilities is that the power elite know a massive amount more about our mind, body, and spirit than we do. Truth be told. Since at least the 1970s, psychotronic electronic harassment has been used to touchlessly torture anyone at will using decades-old, over-the-horizon technologies, cell towers, HAARP, and geoengineering of the skies around the world to access all from anywhere at any time wirelessly. Touchless torture methods used are through microfiber-carrying nanobots inhaled by all through the aerosol releases from geoengineering activities overhead since at least 1978. We all have these micro nanofibers inside of us, as you shall learn from a little further in.
What this committee learned, I would like to review today with a little more detail than Dr. Faden said, because I think it must be engraved on our national memory. Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. While most of the tests were ethical by any standards, some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. Americans were kept in the dark about the effects of what was being done to them. The deception extended beyond the test subjects themselves to encompass their families and the American people as a whole. For these experiments were kept secret, and they were shrouded not for a compelling reason of national security, but for the simple fear of embarrassment.
But we were told all that stopped. Is that untrue?
Untrue. These programs continue under new names, new budgets. It's the ultimate weapon.
And if you look at this from above, it's a really beautiful structure. I know it's about ugly stuff, but it's a beautiful structure because when you look at the entire thing and you try to find solutions to it, you realize actually that everybody who is involved on the different agendas, on the different levels, is doing the same mistake. It is the Luciferic game. Let me participate in your power and I will serve you. I don't want to know what you're doing. I don't want to stand in my own responsibility. Just let me participate from your power, and I will serve. This is the Luciferic deal everybody is doing. And we are doing this by going to vote a government, yeah, that is taking care of all the pipes we are connected to. Yeah. But we let go of our responsibility and we let them do. They're giving control to the military domain. The military domain is giving control, same game, to the intelligence community. The intelligence community is giving control to the black magicians. The black magicians are giving control to the demons. And the demons lost control to their AI.
What do these things want, and why are they here?
You still don't get it, do you, boy?
They have recruited the rich and the powerful.
They're running the whole show.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Blinded us to the truth.
Take a look. They are safe as long as they are not discovered.
I don't know what they are or where they came from, but we gotta stop them. Stay away from me. What these are? They have us. Look at them. They're everywhere.
We've interfered with the ability to compute with numbers.
6, 7, 8.
Okay.
Ooh, yeah. Yes.
We've interfered with the ability to speak.
London Bridge, London Bridge, London Bridge is falling down.
You think of something you can do, and we've basically interfered with it with this machine.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So what's the problem?
I don't know.
This is torture, and I don't care if they call it no-touch torture, whatever euphemisms the U.S. government and their legal staff have come up with. This is the greatest atrocity and crime against humanity that we have known since Hitler. And they need sample points. And nobody likes to hear they were randomly chosen for torture.
So the world, so you're trying to tell me
Your
that
very consciousness, the thing you call the soul, is information contained in the biological computing machinery of your brain. And if someone can override that, you lose your sense of soul, your sense of self.
Well, it's kind of like man versus machine. Machine always moves faster than man is capable of doing
That's
itself.
right. Technology is evolving through mankind as a separate life form, faster than we evolve biologically. So machines will rule the world. I mean,
Dr. Robert Duncan put together the technology that allows the government to transmit thoughts and voices into the heads of Americans.
First question for you. What's negative about what you've done?
I've empowered the dark side by some of my work.
And what do you mean by that?
Technology is neutral.
Right.
It can be used for good or evil. I've worked on projects for the CIA, Justice Department, and Department of Defense.
You worked for these people. You worked on this. You helped to develop it.
I was naive. I did not know how the technologies were going to be put together and the ultimate weapon created. That's part of the whole world domination strategy. Control the population from subconsciously to consciously.
Dr. Duncan goes on to say, I was unlucky. I got a demonstration of the full works of mind control technologies in Satan, the silent assassination through amplification of neurons program, to try and kill the target through car crashes, heart attack, depression, and suicide, self-destructing behavior, neglect, or to be a programmed assassin. They were somewhat fair in that they told me ahead of time using the synthetic telepathy exactly how they were going to try to kill me each day. They told me every torture they were to inflict on me ahead of time. It was oddly routine for them. They said that they had successfully killed an artist in San Francisco with a heart attack, a woman pediatrician, an old lady in a nursing home. They felt pretty confident that they could kill me with EEG cloning. The 200 people in their weapon testing group are competing for points according to the main heterodyned project leader. Those that gained enough experience points could go on the psychic assassins and mind controllers team who work on real projects like world leaders after they collected the effectiveness of the pain data, collected the mind control statistics, and mapped the unique brain waves that I had for their database.
I see everything that happens every day, and I feel that it's a crime against humanity to not say these things and not make others aware of these things.
I don't get to have a normal life because I'm a targeted individual. I don't get to have a wife and kids and a career where I get to rise and fall on my own merits. That's not what targeted individuals get. What we get is grief and pain and hardship and loneliness. And it's not fair.
A vicious cycle of fear, avoidance, mistrust, and misunderstanding had been established. This was a battle in which I felt powerless and incapable of establishing any kind of peace or reconciliation. 2 years later, and the deterioration was dramatic. By now, I had the whole frenzied repertoire. Terrifying voices, grotesque visions, bizarre, intractable delusions. My mental health status had been a catalyst for discrimination, verbal abuse, and physical and sexual assault. And I've been told by my psychiatrist, Eleanor, you'd be better off with cancer because cancer is easier to cure than schizophrenia. I've been diagnosed, drugged, and discarded, and was by now so tormented by the voices that I attempted to drill a hole in my head in order to get them out.
Watching my every move. And it had to get to the point to where I was completely scared shitless of the fact that I had no privacy. That I finally was like, fuck it, I don't care, let them watch me. There's nothing that I am doing that is going to get me into trouble or get me any more hurt than I already am.
And I'm sorry to be coming to you looking so haggard and ungroomed and just terrible and tired and bloated. But this is what being targeted does to you. And this is the result of having to fight every day, all the time, for your life and your sanity. And nobody cares, or nobody understands, or they're told to not believe you and you're crazy.
First thing I want to talk about is nanofibers. Through nanotechnology and chemtrails, the control panel stalkers who are basically in an operations center watching the target individuals are able to monitor and induce all sorts of things in a targeted individual. So this is very freaky. They're able to manipulate a targeted individual's bodily functions, things like their pain receptors, their stress hormones, stuff like that. It is absolutely creepy.
Now, what I'm getting at is that the fact that Earth, literally this instant is a prison for people on Earth, and they are not even aware of it. And everything is encoded, and when you start to wake up, you understand this.
Speaking of the, I'm glad you brought that up as far as the, we're going to kill your family, we're going to do this, because in my experiences, the one time that I didn't do what they said, and guys, please don't laugh about this and don't judge me, but they tell me things like, hey, if you don't masturbate, we're going to murder your grandmother. I know it sounds crazy, man, and I don't know who the hell want to see me masturbate.
I know, it's just the control. They just want to say, will you obey?
But listen to this. The first time, and I promise you guys this, the first time that I didn't do what I was told, I went upstairs, and my grandmother, she's in a wheelchair, she has a pacemaker, she's 82 years old. Within minutes, because I didn't masturbate, my grandmother was slumped over in a wheelchair. I have to pick her up, put her on the toilet because she feels that she's kind of constipated and she thinks that it's gas. And, I know that they have something called...
So it's very old technology in terms of their tactics.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you explained that because now people know that I'm not crazy about what they were capable of doing. So my grandmother, I pick her up off the toilet, I put her back in a wheelchair. We had to use her life alert. She actually went to the hospital, and as she's going to the hospital, I heard the person speaking to me says, I told you, if you did masturbate, what I was going to do. So there goes the whole theory of, these are idle threats. Now I am totally at the mercy and the control of verbal control. And this isn't being infected on me. There have been times where I've been in the same room as my brother, and I've seen, I've heard the person speaking to me says, watch your brother hold his heart, or watch your brother hold his head. And these people are complaining of headaches, and they're also complaining of heart pain. So when I'm told to do something, if I don't do something, my family's going to be hurt. I know that this is real, even if my family doesn't know this is real. So now I'm forced to do whatever I'm told to do.
And they need sample points. And nobody likes to hear they were randomly chosen for torture.
Next project, Satan. Silent assassination through amplification of neurons. I was able to interview over 500 people that know they are electronically harassed, slipped drugs, fed radiation, MK Ultra mind controlled, or directed energy weapons test victims. Several have died while writing this book. They range from children to the elderly, from the poor to the wealthy, from religious to atheist, from uneducated to educated. People are chosen at random like in all their other tests. There is a segment that is overwhelmingly large for a random testing pool, and that the government, whistleblowers, FBI agents, military personnel, or cops in particular, are targeted by these weapons if they testify against other government agencies.
There has been a force that is mostly unseen in control of this planet for an extremely long time, and evidence very much suggests that this force is attempting to manipulate the evolution of human consciousness that is currently taking place. It is very likely the same force that first reduced mankind to the impaired state we now find ourselves in, where our pineal gland is closed, thereby cutting us off from our higher senses, and where our DNA is 97% dormant, whereby each person is reduced to operating to only 3% of their actual capability.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet. Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
This is a man-made motor, a motor so small that more than 6,000 of them would fit on the head of a pin. Welcome to the world of the nanometer, a unit of measure that is 1/billionth of a meter.
If we start at the back of the brain, we've switched off my visual cortex, so made me unable to see things. If we move a little bit forward in the brain, we've interfered with people's ability and my ability to see faces. A little bit further forward, we've interfered with the ability to perform actions. Start moving your finger.
It's quite odd.
It's not your finger anymore.
It's not my finger anymore.
We know that nanoscale materials can enter inside cells, and we know that that could have consequences for health. And so it's incumbent, it's really required that we do research to understand what is the nature of the interaction between new engineered artificial nanoscale materials and living systems, not just cells, but whole living beings.
I don't think he did. He said they spent half a year and $10 billion to optimize the cluster topology. You need to think about cluster topologies. If you want to have these RNA or DNA clusters carry intelligence, carry soul, carry an artificial life form, then it makes sense. And if you picture this, we are infected with this RNA, And the RNA is forming a cluster of 1 millimeter distances around us. And a cluster like this is able to carry a computer program or an artificial, non-physical structure or being. This structure can hoover through the field, but it also can hoover into us. And this structure knows how to access the light production, and it knows how to access the production of poisons. And it also carries intelligence in itself and has the ability to make decisions. This is something that is just implied by the fact that he said we needed to optimize cluster topology. It's a little bit far out, it's a little bit speculation within this, but it gives me a kind of triggering moment when I listen to the word smart dust. Yeah? I get the feeling that this somehow is related to this capability of these optimized cluster topology to carry intelligence and to make its own decisions.
The microbots are controlled with this neurotransmitter. I think what I want them to do, they do it. The applications for this tech are limitless. Construction. What used to take teams of people working by hand for months or years can now be accomplished by one person. And that's just the beginning.
Different fibers, assembling, disassembling your cells.
What is
this?
this
Is a molecular machine that walks around in your cells. Right now it's called a kinesin and transports things. So for example, when things want to move around your cells, they don't just float around randomly. They actually
I like
actively
that.
moved around with little machines, little robots, nanobots that power your cells. What you see here is actually an amazing machine coming out of these little pores, which actually assembles other machines. This is like the factory floor of your cells. It's called a ribosome. It reads your RNA.
See, nanocells are real small. 1,000 times smaller than these dust particulates. You inhale it, they go to work, replicating, spreading like a virus, multiplying in exponentials. 6 months' time, I could have 100 million people converted, ditch diggers, porn stars, and presidents. Not one would be the wiser. 100 million people who buy what I want them to buy and do pretty much damn well anything I figure they ought to do.
While people wait for redemption to be delivered to them via an outside source, the destructive machine of modern civilization continues to grind slowly forward towards its inevitable conclusion. Obviously, it is extremely important for mankind to truly grasp the depths of the problems we are facing and to the peril that our collective failure to deal with things has placed us in. And this peril includes not only the human race, but the entire Earth and all life upon it.
So what you're telling me, every one of us should be in fear of this because every one of us at some point will be targeted?
The technology's advanced that far. That's part of the whole world domination strategy. Control the population from subconsciously to consciously.
You're not still working for it.
No.
You're unequivocally looking me right in the eye right now, and you're telling me you have no more to do with this and that you're out to expose it?
That's correct, sir.
With your background and what you know, can you give us a hint on what we ought to do?
No.
No. Is it too late?
I actually believe it's too late.
Who are the controllers? I mean, is that our president? The Federal Reserve?
No.
So these are people within our government at a certain level making these decisions, and they're not necessarily our president or our elected officials.
That's exactly right.
And now we've got a motive. Controlling dissenters, controlling the world, controlling you and me.
Sleep.
Sleep.
Sleep. Sleep.
The elites, Those who can afford to carry out practices such as chemtrails generally don't eat processed or genetically altered food, and it is extremely unlikely that they are subject to the same rigorous vaccination regime as the general public. If mankind is indeed ingesting nanoparticulates without their general knowledge, then how might such machines be controlled or switched on? In answer to this question, one only needs to realize that it is now a long-established fact that when anything occurs within the human experience, ultimately the information travels around the body electromagnetically. All our five senses, along with any emotional information, is all interpreted by the brain via these electromagnetic signals. Therefore, it is also an established fact that man can be influenced and even controlled via electromagnetism.
Metallic salts have made our air conductive. This means that we and everything around us can transmit and propagate energy. The air is no longer neutral.
I've survived a lot of things, you know. People look at me and they would never ever realize what I've been through, and I don't even want to explain what I've been through, but I can tell you this, that throughout everything that I survived, it's because I remembered love. And there was days where I didn't have anything and I was in the worst situation. I was just a little child, and I would wake up and I'd look at the sun every morning and I just have so much heart love and be so happy and smile, and a person would be like, why are you smiling? And you're not allowed to smile. Why do you smile? And I would explain to them, because I feel love, and that is very, very important to me. All this time I think I have survived because of the fact that my heart is open, and I really do care about people, and I really, really, really see that others, the really sad thing, people aren't working from their heart. They're working from their ego or from other things, and it messes them up. And if everybody would just start opening their hearts and being kind and compassionate and caring, it's not no religion to do those things. It's something normal that we have forgot to do. If we do those more often, the world would be a much better place for us and our children.
It's not about replacing people. It will never work. We need to replace the game.